Howdy, guys, and welcome to a recap of episode 8 of Survivor Season 42. And welcome to Cliff Notes, broadcasting from a long way away from the Survivor Island. I feel like I come on here every week and say, oh, what an action-packed episode. That was incredible. Well, I'm going to do it one more time. I'll probably do it more than that, but I'm going to do it again this evening because there's a lot that took place tonight. Now, not all of it directly game related, although there's nothing that happens on that island that doesn't have an effect on the game, it seems like. But I feel like some of what took place tonight went a little beyond just the game of Survivor itself, a little bit more societal type questions and conversations. And I'm really looking forward to some of the conversations that take place over the next few days, next week or so after tonight. And I think this will be an episode that people talk about for a long time. It was an incredible episode. I really enjoyed watching it. But with that being said, we got a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. Now, first of all, remember that last week the tribes have merged together. We got one big tribe. Chantel got voted out. Chantel became the first member of jury this season. So we're down to 10 castaways still competing for the $1 million prize. That tribal council was on night 16. Night 16. That is incredible how fast-paced these later seasons of Survivor are occurring. So night 16, we're down to 10 castaways. We see the episode starting off, as we typically do, with kind of the repercussions of the tribal council vote itself. And we see Romeo talking. Romeo, if you'll recall, Romeo had 3 votes cast against him at this tribal council. And there was talk for a while that maybe he was going to be the target to go home. Omar kind of jumped in and did some different things. And Romeo ended up not going home, but he understands that he is certainly very low on the list in terms of pecking order, or I guess that'd be high on the list of pecking order getting picked off. But Romeo realizes that he's in a real pickle at this point in time. There's a real threat that he could go home. He understands that he just doesn't have the connections right now that apparently other people do. So Romeo's not feeling too good about his position on the island at this point in time. He's not the only one, because we also see Hai rather upset at the idea that someone cast a vote against Hai. Now, he called it a hinky vote. I think Hai never really thought he was going home. It's got to be rough, though, when your name is thrown out and you don't expect it. Trust me, I've been through a little bit of that. But no, Hai is upset that someone cast a vote for sending him off the island. He thinks that he highly suspects it was Romeo, but Romeo says, no, it wasn't me. No one else will fess up to it either. Just an FYI, it was Romeo. Romeo's the one that cast that hinky vote to send Hai out the door. But Hai, even though Romeo's denying it, Hai saying, yeah, it was you. I know it was you. Hinky votes work well, but they work best when the person that you're casting the vote against doesn't know it was you. Otherwise, you end up just creating an enemy, and Romeo has certainly done that. Hai is very upset with Romeo. We hear Romeo talking about why he did it. And Romeo says, look, I thought there was a good chance I was going out the door. And if I did, I wanted Hai to just squirm a little bit. I just wanted to poke him a little bit. I knew he wouldn't take it well. I knew he'd get upset and worried and everything else if that vote was read out. So I just wanted to do that in case I got sent out the door. I get it, Romeo. I absolutely get it. I've said on this show, I said in the Big Brother house, I don't want anyone ever feeling too comfortable about their position in the game. So I understand why Romeo did it. The problem is now he's got an enemy in Hai, because Hai's just not buying that Romeo wasn't the one that cast that vote. So yeah, we'll see if there's some after effects of that Romeo. It's not the best position to be in, but we've got a couple people upset after that last tribal council. Now we do see the next morning the 4, remember there was an alliance of 8, and then we got it dropped down to 7, an alliance of 7, and we see the 4 guys in that alliance, Jonathan, Mike, Roxroy, and Hai, and I guess Omar is part of it as well, but he's not there. But we see 4 of the guys talking with each other, all of them plotting, and it really seems Hai is pushing the effort, saying, look, we got to get Romeo gone. I don't want Romeo here. I don't trust him. He cast a vote against me. And it seems like everyone's on board to do that. It's an easy target. Romeo's not part of that group of 7. No one's really trusting him in this group. So the original plan is to go ahead and target Romeo when it comes down to it at Tribal Council. But then we get a little side conversation. Roxroy doing a little confessional on the camera. And Roxroy's talking about the fact that he feels like the guys in this tribe are doing a lot of the work. They're fishing, they're cutting wood, they're doing all kinds of different things, and they're not getting enough recognition for their efforts. And you know what? You're playing a game of Survivor. It's not the game of fishing and getting firewood and everything. It's a game of Survivor. But Roxroy's feeling like they're doing a lot more work than they're getting commended for, and he's feeling like the guys aren't really working enough together. Remember, we got 6 guys right now. We've got 4 women, and Roxroy is feeling like if they're not careful, the 4 women are tighter with each other, that they could turn on the guys and just start picking off one by one. So Roxroy really wants to try to get the guys working together and preserve their numbers, and maybe going after some of the women instead. Who would he go after? I don't know. Maybe Tori, considering their history, that would probably be most likely. But Roxroy's really wanting to try to get all the guys to work together as quickly as possible, which sounds like maybe an alliance in action. But the problem is that he's trying to sell this to Omar a little bit later, and Omar's not buying it. He's saying, yeah, that'd be great. But in private, Omar's saying, yeah, let Roxroy say it. But I know that I'm not in tight with all those guys, and it's not to my benefit to do it. Hai's in the same situation. Hai's also saying, yeah, I'm not sure I really want to get in so tight with those guys, and just not really buying it either. Hai and Omar are both realizing that if such an alliance did form, 6 against 4, that they would be very low in that pecking order in a man's alliance. And it just would not benefit them long term. Short term, sure, maybe they can survive a few more tribal councils if the target becomes a woman, but they're both good enough players. They understand that may not be a benefit to them for long term game. But they're not telling Roxroy that. You don't want to do that. People come to you suggesting alliance. You always just say, absolutely, I'm all for it. That's the way you play the game. So Roxroy's thinking maybe he's got all these guys pulling together. In reality, he's got a bunch of people saying, yeah, hold your horses. Maybe we aren't going to go quite there just yet. Now that Roxroy said that, would this be a good time to potentially alert the women? If you're Romeo, especially if you're Romeo and you feel like the target may be on your back, maybe a little whisper to some of the women about what's going on. Maybe you can get the target shifted off of you and onto someone like, I don't know, Roxroy. Just a thought of as I'm watching the episode itself. But suspend that thought, because it's time to get to the reward challenge itself, where I say reward, immunity challenge, where Jeff's going to change everything up. All these forecast ideas, predictions, all get thrown out the window because we got a couple of twists that we're dealing with this evening that changes everything up. We learn that of the 10 castaways we got left, they're going to be randomly split into 2 teams of 5. Oh, we see that happen for reward challenge. Nothing huge about that. But the difference is this time you're going to have 2 immunity winners, and you're going to have 2 tribal councils with those 5 members of each tribe voting out someone from that group of 5. So each of these 2 5s, you've got a 1 in 5, a 20% chance that you're going to win immunity and be safe, but also a 20% chance that you're going to go home. When you only have 5 castmates or tribe mates, it only takes 3 votes to send you packing. So you can have all kinds of alliances, but depending upon the random draws of these teams, it may not amount to a hill of bean. And so that's going to make it a little bit more exciting. Now, the other thing we hear Jeff mention is the fact that you're gonna have 2 people who win immunity, but one person's going to win maximum immunity. Whoever, we'll talk about the endurance challenge in a second, whoever lasts longest on this endurance challenge and stays up the longest is going to also not only win immunity, but win food for their tribe of 5 castaways, some kebabs and things like that. And they get a little advantage, even more important, really. They get a little advantage of their tribal council gets to go second after the other tribe has done their tribal council. So they'll get to see the effects of the first tribal council vote before they go in and do their voting. They don't get to see the first tribal council, but at least they get to see who is voted off and use that to maybe guide some of their feelings, their votes, etc., for their tribal. So pretty important, whoever wins wins the overall immunity. So with that being said, we get two teams. Well, first of all, let's talk about the challenge. The challenge, we've seen it before, platforms in the ocean, kind of an A-frame type wooden structure, little tiny strips of wood that you got to put your feet in or put your feet on and balance on the floating piece of wood without falling off. After a certain amount of time, Jeff tells you everyone has to move up to even skinnier piece of wood. And I would not do great at this challenge. It looks so painful for the feet. It would have killed me. It's a tough challenge. Even tougher tonight because the wind and the waves, we've seen this earlier. We saw the episode where they actually suspended the challenge because the waves were so bad. Well, you got another situation like that this evening. The waves are really strong. As soon as Jeff blows the whistle, we see a bunch of people falling into the water. It's a quick competition because these platforms are rocking all different directions. It's difficult. But let's talk about the two teams because, again, it's not just for the reward. It's not just for immunity. It's for tribal council. So random draw. I wish we'd seen the random draw take place. I guess they drew rocks or something. It would have been an interesting, suspenseful moment to see one person at a time maybe flip the rocks. But anyway, only so many minutes in the episode, right? But the two teams that we've got. On one team, we get Drea, Jonathan, Tori, Lindsay, and Marianne. Jonathan's the only guy on this particular team. Does that spell maybe some trouble for Jonathan? I don't know. We're gonna find out. I'd be a little nervous about being in that particular position. On the other team, we've got Romeo, Hai, Omar, Roxroy, and Mike. I feel like isn't that interesting? 5 guys on one of the teams. I feel like Roxroy could be in trouble in this particular group. Of course, we also have Hai and Romeo a little upset with each other. So don't know what's going to happen in that one, but so much for the Men's Alliance. When you got a team of 5 men, you don't have a whole lot of options. So Roxroy idea of a Men's Alliance that didn't last for that long, at least not this evening. So those are the two teams that we've got competing against each other. As I mentioned, the water is so rough, people immediately going down as soon as the whistle's blown. It eventually comes down to one tribe, either Jonathan or Lindsay are left, and on the other tribe, it's Romeo and Hai. Isn't that interesting? The two guys who are kind of going at it with each other are the two left on the structure that they really need to win. I feel like in those cases, Romeo really needs this victory. I think Jonathan needs it as well, just to be safe. Well, as it turns out, the winners we get from the one side, Hai. Hai has won immunity. And Jonathan, of course, Jonathan wins on the other side. And of course, Jonathan stays up longer than Hai. He's the last person standing. So he's also won kebabs for his tribe or for his new team. And they get to come into tribal council second. So what's that say about risk and what maybe is going to happen? Well, I feel like on one side, I just feel like Roxroy's name has been thrown out there a lot. I feel like Roxroy could be in trouble. On the other side, Tori seems like a fairly easy target on that side. We're going to find out what happens, though. Again, it only takes 3 votes. That can lead to all kinds of stuff going on when only 3 votes can get someone sent out the door. But we've got Mike feeling pretty certain that Omar, Roxroy, and Hai are going to team up with him to send Romeo out the door. He feels like it's a slam dunk. We've seen some of these conversations taking place, though. I'm not so sure that's the case. Now, Romeo thinks he's going home. He figures that the odds are against him. He's heading out the door. Mike and Roxroy are thinking the same thing. They're all thinking that's the case it's going to be. But Omar, once again, Omar's got some other plans that people aren't completely aware of. He's telling Romeo that the guys have been aligning, that they're all going after Romeo itself. And so they're going to do that. But Omar's saying, look, I'm down with getting at Roxroy instead. I don't think he really helps us. Let's, Romeo, you and me will vote for Roxroy. And suddenly Hai becomes a swing vote going one way or the other. It's going to be interesting. Now, Hai is worried that turning on Roxroy is going to destroy his relationship with Mike. He mentions that he and Mike are kind of the tightest 2 guys. They're each other's number 1s to some degree. and he's worried that if he does this without telling Mike, that's just going to destroy everything that he's worked to develop trust-wise with Mike. So as a result, he actually tells Mike, says, look, this is what's being suggested, and I'm okay with Rocksroy going home, but I don't want to do it without telling you and getting you on board. Mike's worried that all these guys are going to be seen as very untrustworthy if they turn right around and instead of sending someone out the door like Romeo, who's not part of this alliance of seven, if instead they send home Rocksroy, who is part of this alliance, that they're going to be seen as very untrustworthy by everyone else. So he's big into trust. He's big into loyalty. He's keeping his word. All great things to have in regular life and Survivor. Not always so much. I think it's still important, but he's worried about that. So we don't really know which way Mike's going to go, and as a result, we don't necessarily know which way Hai is going to go as well. Again, Hai said, "Look, I don't have any problem getting rid of Romeo. Y'all know I was the one pushing for it, but he's weak enough. We can do that later. It may be that's what Omar and some of them are saying. Well, you can go for Rocksroy right now. So we've got that." Now, on the other side, the other team, we've got Lindsay explaining that she and Marianne and Jonathan are former tribe mates, and that Drea, they know, has an idol. So it seems like a pretty obvious solution to just send Tori out the door instead. She feels like Jonathan, Marianne herself will protect each other, so they're all safe. Of course, Jonathan has immunity at this point as well. You can't run the risk that Drea will pull her idol, so Tori seems a foregone conclusion on the other side. But maybe not so much if Jonathan gets his way, because Jonathan has decided that maybe the easy solution isn't the best solution, and instead he's telling Marianne that he wants to get Drea out because she's got this idol, and he just feels like they need to kind of flush that idol out, go ahead and send her out the door. And Marianne seems excited. She seems on board to get rid of someone with the idol, until Jonathan mentions to her, says, "Oh, and by the way, we'll tell her that we're all voting for you to send home, so that she didn't get suspicious or anything else." Well, Marianne's not quite so on board with the idea of making her the pawn in this particular vote, especially knowing that Drea does have an idol that she's got to worry about. And here's the thing: Jonathan is very forceful in his suggestions, in his decisions about what he wants to do. He's really not approaching Marianne saying, "Look, what do you think about this?" or "I'd love to get your input." It's very much, "We're doing this. Trust me, do it. You got to do it, Marianne." He's again very, very forceful in his opinions, and Marianne picks up on that. I think she says something like, "I'm not a little girl. Yeah, don't tell me the way you're trying to tell me right here." And I understand it. He kind of came across as very not working as partners, but very much saying, "This is what you're going to do." That doesn't really work that well in these reality games. And sure enough, right after that, we've got Marianne telling Tori about this plan of Jonathan's, and Tori at that point is worried that that Drea is going to convince everyone to go after Tori. Tori's saying, "Oh yeah, go after Drea. I'm fine with that," but she's going to work her magic. She's going to convince everyone to go after me instead. So I just know Drea well enough. Now we've got Lindsay pointing out the danger of Drea playing her idol. Jonathan's explaining to Lindsay what he wants to do. Lindsay saying, "Look, the problem is that Drea could play that idol, which means if that's the case, then suddenly if she then turns around and votes for Marianne, that Marianne goes home." And Lindsay's saying, Marianne's got the idol. She's got the extra vote that's supposed to protect Jonathan, you and me and her, since we're former tribe mates. But if Drea plays that idol, then we lose Marianne. We lose all her advantages as well. So that may not be the best idea. We got to figure out a different way to do it. And Lindsay's suggesting that, look, instead of doing it your way, Jonathan, why don't I convince Drea to vote for Tori? She and I will both vote for Tori, 2 votes. And then y'all can vote for the other 3 votes for Drea. And that way we've got covered. Marianne is protected as well. It seems like a good plan. I agree with Lindsay. I think that's a better approach to take. But Jonathan's just not listening. He's saying, "Nah, we just got to do it this way. We just got to do it this way." I think we found Jonathan's Achilles heel. He's a fantastic competitor. he's had a good social game so far, but it seems like Jonathan may be a little too involved with mansplaining and not really listening to some of his female castmates. I hadn't really seen that before this episode. Blame it on editing. Maybe it's a little bit of the pressure, paranoia kicking in. Not sure, but it really seemed like this week that Jonathan wasn't doing a good job of listening to his other castmates, doing a lot more telling and not as much listening. And never good. You got to get people feeling like they're part of the relationship, the partnership as well. So yeah, not a real good look for Jonathan right here. All right, lots of planning, but here come the two tribal councils. First tribal council, the five guys. Big question: which way does Hai go? He's a swing vote. Is he going to go ahead and go after Roxroy, or is he going to go ahead and stick with Mike and go after Romeo and preserve the trust of the guys and everything else? Well, we don't have any idols played. We don't have any advantages played. No shot in the dark played. And with 3 or more votes, because we don't see all the votes revealed, but with at least 3 votes, Roxroy is gone. Apparently, Hai went ahead and flipped and voted along with Omar and Romeo to send Roxroy out the door. The big question, did Mike keep his word? Well, we don't know at the time because the 5th vote wasn't revealed. But during the credits, we see that, yeah, Mike as well went ahead and voted out Roxroy. So, again, he and Hai are pretty tight. And once he felt like Hai was on board and the writing was on the wall, so to speak, Mike joined in as well. So by 4-1 vote, Roxroy becomes our second member of the jury. Takes it pretty well. I have a feeling he may have suspected it to some degree. I don't know. As I say that, I feel like he was pretty confident that it was going to be Romeo, but anyway, it is what it is. So we've got our second member of jury. So we've got that. Now get ready for the big conversation as we get the second group coming in for their tribal council. Everyone looks incredibly shocked when they walk in and they see that Roxroy is sitting on the jury benches along with Chanel. Very shocked, looking very surprised. Well, first of all, you've got to be. Roxroy is now part of the jury. So if I'm walking in there and saying, oh, no, I can't believe it was you, Roxroy, that's horrible. Even if in the inside, even if I'm Tori or someone and just applauding inside that someone that maybe I didn't get along with is in jury, he's a jury member. So you've got to kind of kiss up a little. So everyone's acting very surprised. And I think some people truly are surprised as we're going to find out. Dre looks very, very upset. She's very surprised to see him on the bench and very concerned. And as Jeff starts talking to the castmates, Drea makes a suggestion, concern, comment, a little bit of all, suggesting that maybe Chanel and Roxroy, as the first 2 jurors, both African Americans, people of color, that maybe there's a little bit of a racial basis to why they're the 2 jurors, first 2 jurors sitting on the bench. And she makes a mention at some point. It just seems like it's boom, 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 boom. People of color getting voted out. And so she's suggesting there may be some level of racial type bias, subconscious or otherwise going on. I don't really, I personally, in my opinion, I don't really think so. With Roxroy, remember, of the 5 guys on that particular team, 4 of them were people of color. The one person who was fighting the hardest about not going after Roxroy was Mike, the one white guy on the team. But, with 4 people of color, the chances were that you're going to have a minority as the second juror. So I understand Dre's concern. I don't necessarily agree, but sometimes perceptions are reality in these games. It is what it is, and she is very worried about that. But here's the thing: now, with that being put out there in conversation, are Jonathan, Tori, and Lindsay still willing to vote out Drea and worry about maybe being accused of having some implicit bias? Some additional things that maybe were leading to them to make that vote. Whether that's the case or not, it's got to be something that maybe is going through their head a little bit. But we do have Drea at that point saying that she is going to use her idol for that reason, because she sees who's sitting on the jury bench right now, and she's worried that she could be over there as well. And so she's going to be using her idol this evening. Well, it's good. I mean, she was the target at that place, so it's a smart move to make. And by mentioning what she did, I think it made the rest of her teammates really feel like it was more than just an idle threat that she was going to use her idol, but something that she really is planning to do. So that's just the beginning of the conversation. Now, first of all, if she played her idol, the plan would still work. Well, let's move on. I was going to say it would still work. If she plays her idol, she would obviously be safe. But at that point, then you'd have 3 votes for her that don't come into play. You'd still have 2 votes for Tori. Tori would be sent home. But with her making that mention, we see a lot of scrambling beginning to happen. We get Jonathan immediately asking Drea, saying, look, what do you want to do? At which point Drea says, I want to send Tori home. That's what I want to do, Jonathan. But then we see Lindsay leaning over and telling Tori that the plan is still the same. We're still going to send Drea out the door. Now, is that just the case, or is that just Lindsay telling Tori that so that Tori doesn't play her shot in the dark? We don't really know at this point in time. And so there's still some whispering going on back and forth. Well, that all gets shut down because Maryanne at this point says, look, after hearing all that, I can't vote for Drea. I can't vote to send her out the door. I just can't do it. And it's not whispering. She's telling, I think, Lindsay and Tori, but it's loud enough that everyone hears. And eventually she says that. She says, look, everyone hears already, so I might as well just say it. I'm not voting to send Drea out the door. I'm just not going to do it. And we get a very impassioned speech from Maryanne, talking about the position she's in, making a stand, and that she's just not going to make that vote. It was a very passionate conversation and very well spoken. So she's got that. Now Jonathan is bristling a little bit at the implication that any of his actions or decisions, that the fact that they were getting ready to send Drea out the door could somehow have some level of racism involved with it, is how he phrases it. And everyone is quick to say it doesn't have anything to do with you. It has to do with us and our perceptions and our concerns and all that. But it does create a little friction. I don't know, a little concern about how everything is being, again, perception's reality. And I'm sure at that point in time, everyone is thinking about the perception of who is sitting on the jury at that point in time, who may be sitting on the jury as the third member as well. So we've got that. Now here's where it gets a little interesting as well. We get Maryanne worried that if she and Drea don't play their idols at this point in time, because remember, they both have one. She's worried if they don't both play their idols, but they still survive, that there's going to be people accusing them of playing the race card as a way to survive. And so really feeling like they have to, at this point in time, play their idols so that they're safe no matter what, as opposed to being safe because they somehow have guilted other people into not voting them out. I get what they're saying, but it involves getting rid of a couple of idols, which it's tough to do in the game. Idols normally aren't that easy to come by. What an interesting conversation, and what an interesting group of opinions. It's well beyond the scope of this quick little recap for me to be commenting on, but I'm really looking forward to the online conversations over the next few days. And again, I think this will be an episode that's talked about for a long time to come, and it's interesting. A lot of reality TV encompasses life and society in general. And I think maybe we saw a little bit of that this evening. And I think there are a lot of conversations that we saw on the TV tonight that are going to lead to a lot of conversations in the real world. And that's never a bad thing. So I enjoyed it. It was uncomfortable. I don't know, very emotional, very passionate watching this. And I feel for everyone who is involved with it, but I look forward to the conversations that take place. So it was quite the tribal council. I got to say, Jeff Probst always manages to bring it out of these castaways when he gets them there in front of those, in front of the fire and with their lives on the line. So it continues to get a little interesting because at this point in time, Marianne says, look, I'm playing my idol, Dre, and she's going to play hers. We've got to play at this point. We don't have any choice. And so Jeff says, well, do we need to go up and do the votes, or are y'all comfortable? And Dre and Marianne, give them credit. They both jump up and say, yeah, no, we're playing our idols just like we said we were going to play them. So Jeff says, all right, well, we haven't even had the vote yet, but obviously these two are safe. They're both good idols. So Jonathan has immunity. Drea is safe. Marianne is safe. It's going to come down to Tori or Lindsay going home. It doesn't take long before everyone pretty much to Tori's face says, look, you're who we're voting at. You're going home. Tori puts up a little bit of an argument, but it's not going anywhere. She understands that it's her night to head out the door, except she still has the opportunity to play that shot in the dark, a 1 in 6 chance. So she goes up to the voting booth. She grabs her random scroll, comes back down. Jeff opens it up, and Tori is not safe. Yeah, 1 in 6 chance didn't pay out for Tori. Tori's been voted off the island and become the third jury member this evening. Tough. Again, a very emotional tribal council and quite the conversation that took place. So there you have it. Tori, I feel like from day one when Tori got caught searching around for idols, she had a big old target on her back. Her conflict with Roxroy didn't help any. It is interesting that those two had some of the biggest arguments or some of the biggest animosity with each other. They're both going home the same evening. They're both going back to Ponderosa at the same time. I guess they got Ponderosa again this year, right? So yeah, both of them get voted out on the same evening. They were fun castmates. Again, applause to CBS for great casting for Roxroy and Tori both, but we've lost both of them. We're now down to 9 tribe mates, and I'm really curious to see next week everything that was talked about this evening. How is that going to resolve itself going forward? Are we going to see alliances and relationships change based on what we saw tonight? Or once they get away from tribal council, are they going to go back to kind of how they were always set up? I don't know. And I'm curious to see the relationship with Hai and Mike. And there's a lot to be seen next week. So I'm looking forward to it. So guys, y'all have a fantastic week. I will be back again next Wednesday. We'll see what happens on episode 9. I can't even wait. Another fantastic episode this evening. Guys, y'all have a great one. SKD 143. Cheers, my friends. Bye.